Welcome to another Watertrek 360. This is part 6 in our last video in this short series on diving in the Jardines de la Reina, Cuba.
Folks, here we are on day 7 in the Gardens of the Queen, Jardines de la Reina. I got a lot of video I want to share and a lot of the experiences, the good, bad, and the ugly. Let's take a look.
This was our 6th day of diving. Again, we had rain and wind. The water was still choppy from the previous night's blowy conditions, and it was heavily overcast. We again headed west across the channel to almost the same spot as our first dive the day before. This site was called Farralon. This was a deeper tabletop-like reef with deep cracks and canyons. We knew there were going to be a lot of sharks, but the mission on this dive was to traverse a pair of parallel cracks and tunnels through the reef. I dallied a bit and found myself near the end of the line, so to speak. I've done dives like this before, and unless you are one of the first divers, it's not like being the lead sled dog. Regardless of the scenery, your view sucks. My bad for not paying attention. Since these were pretty deep, 90 feet or so, and I knew the viz coming back was going to be as bad, I took the shortcut back along the top, meeting the other divers at the exit opening. This is one dive I wish I had a do-over. I decided to switch to my 360 camera, hoping that would show the dramatic drop-offs of the reef. I regretted it a little bit. The one challenge with a 360 camera is the color loss at depth, and we were a bit deeper. Sorry for the white floating mark on this video. That was a result of the crocodile bite from day 3. Oops, another shark looking to eat my camera. At the end of the dive, I noticed a couple of things that were a little different. There were lots of sharks by the boat, more than usual. Again, there was a reason. The boat that was there first had already been chumming the water to attract sharks, both silky and reef sharks. The silkies have a narrower, more pointed head than the reef sharks. I've not seen boats do this while active divers were still in the water, but as I've said, it's what they do here. Well, we got our turn, so to speak. I learned my lesson from the crocodile. I was not as brave as my fellow diver who seemed to be draped in sharks. Our last dive of the trip was bittersweet for obvious reasons. The rainbow didn't help. We headed east again. The water was pretty bouncy. We were scheduled to hit a site called Finca de Pepe, just west of the cut. Unfortunately, the visibility was the worst of the entire trip. As you can see, significantly reduced. So we dropped down from roughly 30 feet on the reef top to 55-60 along the sand. There were large blocks of coral heads running along the main reef. I was keeping my fingers crossed. More fish. This was a low-cut reef with a maze of sand channels. The surge was noticeable, but I didn't mind. It was a relatively uneventful dive. One of the features of this site was a large number of barrel sponge scattered throughout the site. We still had our pesky friend. One of the highlights was getting a shot of this yellowhead jawfish. Another highlight was this little guy, a spotted moray. I've got some feedback on my video on coral health of the Jardines. Some folks think I am overstating the issue since it's cyclical and there are more important factors than just ocean warming. I agree there are other impacts like pollution and habitat loss due to humans, but warm water bleaching cycles are trending in the wrong direction. Higher temperatures and longer duration. Yes, there is evidence of SCTLD. I do not know if there's a correlation between the two. Regardless, to think that these cycles are benign in the long term is a short-sighted denial, in my opinion. So as this final dive came to a close, I tried to eke out as much time as I could, knowing I might never be back. And just like that, done. 20 dives in a place most of my dive partners and I had never done, but wanted to for years. The journey wasn't over. The dive ended in torrential rain and more wind. Jardines' way of saying, "Get out!" Everyone was worried about how their gear would dry in time for the next day's flight. In short order, the boat was on its way back to Hookeroo. Luckily, the sun broke and the gear did dry. We made it back for sunset, and 6 hours later it was time to pack, party, and get ready for the flight out, and reflect. I know throughout this 6-part series I've repeated a few concerns, but I want to clarify 3 things. First, the condition of the reefs. This is not Cuba's fault. This is the world's fault. Climate change is real. Just ask a scuba diver. We see it firsthand. I am hopeful we as humans can rectify this soon so that my grandkids might see these wonders for themselves. The second item I've repeated is my concern with over-interaction with the animals. The hutia, the crocodiles, the shark and grouper feedings. These are controversial for some for a variety of reasons. Again, I am not casting dispersions on the Cuban people, nor on our wonderful guides. They did it for us. Okay, we were on a humanitarian visa, but we were basically tourists. Feeding the challenge. Just ask my camera housing. Cuba as a nation in the mid-2000s moved primarily to a tourist-based economy. Exports, farming, manufacture of goods are all way down. Cuba still has not recovered from the 2020 COVID travel impacts. Their GDP only averaged 2% for the 6 years prior to COVID. It was negative 11% in 2020 and only 2% again in 2023. But their consumer price changes, what things cost, prior to COVID, again, averaged around 2% per year. In 2020, that jumped to 18%, and in 2022, a staggering 77%. Those on the margins can't live. Cuba has lost an estimated 500,000 people or more, 5% of the population, due to emigration since COVID. The bulk of those seeking refuge in the United States. They need to keep the money coming. Diving and animal interactions like we saw are prime stimulators. Lastly, I am not advocating that people shouldn't come to the Jardines de la Reina. I've gotten feedback indicating this. That is not what I'm saying. Conversely, I say go before it really is too late. My only point was to be prudent with your expectations. It may very well disappoint and sadden you as well. So, if you've gotten this far and have watched most or all of these videos on the Jardines de la Reina, I thank you. These videos were almost as much fun to make as they were to record. I may do one more video on Cuba about day excursions in Havana. Check that out on my other channel, Tech360 Videoland. So anyway, that's a wrap on the Jardines de la Reina. Instead of my usual tagline of saying stay safe and enjoy your diving, I'm going to say stay safe and help protect our diving. Do something to help. Get involved. Join an organization. Participate. Go retrieve some garbage. I am at least trying. So anyway, as always, my friends, until you see me next time, go explore, get wet,